Oh, my little darklings, you like mysteries? We've got mysteries. You like conspiracies? We have conspiracies. You like portals? We might have a portal. Just stay tuned. You'll find out eventually. We will be back. We've got all the best in the news. The entire Paranormal 60 news crew is here with a very special guest joining us tonight. Scott Wolter is here next on the Paranormal 60 news. Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight is my last live show until next Wednesday. But Monday, I have got a great episode coming up for you. We pre-recorded it today. It is a brand new episode, one you've never heard, and I was very excited to record it. I think we had a great conversation. Chaplain Jody Dean joins us, Jody Dane, rather. She is going to talk to us about the trouble with angels. She is also the host of the Survivor Angels podcast, and it is an amazing conversation. I think many of you are going to enjoy. We did a little possession at the beginning of this week. We're going to talk a little angels and devils this next week, because remember, when we call upon the angels, who's answering? The demons, they're fallen angels, right? Those are just some of the topics we're going to cover. That's Monday night. I hope that you'll tune in and check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, the intrepid news crew is here, sitting in a room in front of many books that are clad in leather. The one, the only. Hey, Chachi.
Good evening, Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Oh, I see an unveiling coming a little bit into the show, or we're about to do it now. Do we need the full complement of the crew in here first?
We probably should. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
All right. We will do the dance of the seven veils in a few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, Sweet Tea is in the house.
Oh.
Hi, Tressa.
Oh, that's close. Hi, everybody.
It is. It is very close. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being here. And rounding out the regular news crew, we have the one, the only, the paranormal detective and author of Messages from Mothman. This is Greg Lawson.
Wow,
Hi, Greg.
I'm just happy and pleased and thrilled to be here.
It's good to have you here.
I think this is going to be my favorite show.
I would believe so. When you hear the topics we have to cover, it's going to be amazing. Listen, the Colonel, yes, a regular participant in the show, has the night off. He is busy working, doing stuff, and that's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not allowed. He's like a spy. I can't tell people what he's really up to. Yeah. He might be, I don't know, throwing people into volcanoes. Who knows? He's in Hawaii. I don't know. Maybe he's burning sugarcane. All right. Let's unveil the masterpiece that is this week's shirt. Chach, what have you got?
Dave,
for
do you know what's on my shirt?
A piece of paper.
Right now, that is correct.
Yes. Thank you.
This week was a very important week in the paranormal.
Yes.
Do you know what was released this week, Dave?
I do.
Brand new book.
A brand new book.
By one of the greatest paranormal authors ever.
Wow.
So I've done something I've never done in
Incredible.
200 episodes of this show.
What?
I did not hashtag my shirt.
Oh.
Instead, I became a walking billboard for my friend, David Schrader.
Oh,
Wow.
Look at
beautiful.
Look at that. Theater of the Mind available now for all of you watching across the world or listening from any pocket universe out there. Go to Amazon, order Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness. My brand new book is out and available. For those of you living in the United States, if you'd like a signed copy, just go to paranormal60.com. On the front page, you can scroll down. You'll find a way to get the normal copy or the autographed abnormal copy. Is that the I don't
Those were the odd number pages only.
That'd be normal.
Exactly. If only put in the odd number pages. The book is out and available. Thank you for bringing that up. And very special thanks to Nikki Folsom, the Joni to our Chachi, for all of the help in editing and putting this book together with me and getting it out there and available. So thank you,
And the maker of tonight's shirt, Dave.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Fancy.
So talented.
Multi-instrumentalist.
Yes.
Does
It's,
everything.
Pretty impressive. Very nice. Let's speaking of impressive and nice, we have a special
hello.
guest joining
Oh.
us tonight. Not you, sweetie.
Oh.
And he has been a part of my shows for nigh on 15 years now, joining me on all of the different iterations to talk about amazing things. And we've got a new story that has come out we're going to discuss in a few minutes. But first, let's bring on forensic geologist, TV personality, author, and can't say it because it sounds dirty when it comes out of my mouth. What do you call yourself? What kind of agate specialist are you?
I am an agate hound. Do you see the pattern on my chest right there?
I do. Thank you for standing all the way up because originally that just looked like one big nipple.
I got
Staring
two
at
of those right here. No, almost as impressive as the Theater of the Mind shirt, but not quite. So, but anyway, it's great to be here, Dave, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation. But I am going to do something real quick, if you don't mind.
Please.
And by the way, I want to congratulate you on your new book. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I have a new book coming out next month, and this is part of the working draft that I was
Looks a little
doing.
thin, Scott. I'm not going to lie. That
I
looks
think that's a
very
pamphlet.
Oak Island, Knights Templar, and the Holy Grail. Secrets of the Underground Project revealed.
Yes.
How about that? Huh?
And it's
And
good.
he has me narrating it.
Yes. Here is the rest of the manuscript. It's right here. And I was out in New York with my co-author, and we did a number of things. But one of the things was we went through the manuscript, and it's going to be good. And we're going to reveal the secrets, but not tonight.
I do have another secret that many of you may not know about. Scott is back. He's on TV. He's on Gaia with a new series called Mystery of the Knights Templar. We have a link for that show in tonight's program guide, so you can find it. Go subscribe to Gaia, see all of the amazing programming there, and you can check out the episodes. You're on episode number 4 right now. Is that correct?
Yep. It premiered on Monday. And for the next 6 weeks, there's going to be 6 more episodes for a total of 10. And they just get better and better and better. But the first episode, we talk a lot about the subject matter that I think you want to talk about here tonight, Atlantis.
Well, let's dive into that. Greg, you brought to me an article about a strange find off the coast of Australia. Where are we going to start with this now?
Yeah, man. When I first saw that, it struck my interest, but it also didn't surprise me. We have such good technology now, and it's getting better and better and better. And even when I was in the Navy, the technology that they were using then that was top secret is now open source. So, we can see underwater really well now. So off the north coast of Australia, like in a lot of these underwater interesting, what would you say? Interesting topography underwater. You start looking at it and it's like, wow, that kind of looks like a riverbed was there, and it looks like there was a lake, and like off of the coast of India. In the Epic of India, they talk about all these different cities, and Krishna was from a place called Dwarka, and the Dwarka that exists today that people actually are in isn't the Dwarka that was in his time. And a lot of these oil exploration units will go out and look for this stuff, and they're finding all this interesting stuff. So anyway, off the north coast of Australia, they found an archipelago in about 300 feet of water, which, depending on what you look at, 12,000, 16,000 years ago or so, would have been above the water table now. Or actually, the water was down then, I should say. So, like a lot of areas, this thing is probably a landmass that would have supported anywhere from 50 to 500,000 people. We all
that's a big scale, from 50 people to 500,000.
Well,
you're not hedging your bets here, Greg.
It just depends on how much chow you have to.
I guess, right?
It really does. If
Hey,
everybody's
Greg,
eating that happy, yes, sir.
can I just jump in for a sec? And
Yeah,
this is
please.
really interesting, but I'm not at all surprised, because I think what we have to think about here, and remember, I'm a rockhead, I'm a geologist, I do it for a living. And actually, my concentration when I was studying up at the University of Minnesota Duluth was glacial quaternary geology. And quaternary geology is basically the last 2 million years of geological time. And that was the time of the great ice ages. And we had multiple advances and retreats. But the last retreat, if you will, the great melting of the ice, and that's a rich topic that I don't think we'll dive in too deep. But what is important for people to understand is that when you go back about 12, 13, 14, 15,000 years, we had a lot more ice and a lot less water in the oceans. And so the continents were larger because you lower the water level. You said 300 feet, that's right in the wheelhouse, because we estimate that sea level has risen because of the melting of the continental ice sheets about 300 to 400 feet. And if you think about that, when you go back to these ancient times, to the time of the Atlanteans and before, and we'll get into that, most of the people lived on the coastlines, because that's where all the food is, right? And so from an archaeological standpoint, if you think about it, probably I've heard numbers anywhere from 75 to 80 to 90% of the ancient archaeological sites are underwater.
Yeah.
300 to 400 feet in many cases, because those ancient sites have been drowned by the rising sea level. So this is one of those. I mean, what you're describing is just classic, typical, post-glacial sea level rise cultures and their sites that have been drowned and are just sitting there waiting for us to explore them.
And it's funny when you talk to a lot of academics about this stuff. If you would have talked to them 30 years ago, they would have kind of just, it's not that big, every once in a while there's something there. But now I think most of the academics, most of the people that are reading and staying up with this, is like, whenever we're able to routinely reach 300-400 feet, we're going to find all kinds of things.
I'll tell you just a really quick story. There was a guy that was a guest on our show. His name was Dennis Sanford, and he was an archaeologist at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington. He wrote a book called Across Arctic Ice. And basically, he had a thesis that cultures that were living in Europe, what is now France, the British Isles, and that area, walked across, following the seals along Arctic ice along the North Atlantic, and then down along the eastern seaboard of North America. And what they found that talked about these cultures and the type of points, obsidian points that were big ones like this, the way that they found them is that fishermen were putting their nets down on the East Coast 300 to 400 feet, and they were dragging along the bottom when they were getting fish, but they were scooping up some of these points, and they ended up in their nets. And these were some of the artifacts that he talked about as a guest on the show. And I was just amazed by that. And, as a side note, he was one of the most open-minded, nice guys from the standpoint of archaeologists that I've met. I've ran into some real donkeys over the years, and I'm sure they'd probably say the same about me. But this guy was wonderful, and unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But think about that. The way they were finding these points is these fish nets dragging on the bottom of the ocean. I just think that's cool as hell.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
But Scott, every time we see into the ocean and see I think it was off the Great Barrier Reef a few years ago, they found what looked like pilings going out, which might have been along the side of roadways at one point. We keep hearing the terms Atlantis, Lemuria, things that these lost civilizations. Yeah. And how in this current environment, 21st century, with LIDAR and all of the equipment we have, are we not able to see and map the bottom of the oceans more clearly and know what's down there?
Well, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, we are. There, oil exploration, the military, they are doing incredible work. And I mean, you can see, where they're dumping trash, and you can see bicycles, and you can see all kinds of stuff, very, very deep.
But
And
the
Scott,
bottom,
yeah,
the bottom.
the bottom, yeah, where it goes all the way down. And Scott, you were talking about the point. I think, I don't know if you're referencing Doggerland, but I know in the 1930s they were dragging bottom nets between in the North Sea, just north of Britain, between Britain and the European continent. That whole valley would have been there, and you would have been able to walk across right there.
Right.
So
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, a lot of our teachers would say, no, this is the way things are. And they didn't understand plate tectonics. That theory came up in the 1930s, right? Plate tectonics.
1960s with the Challenger expedition, they did all this drilling in all of the oceans. It was like an 8-year program. I remember I read about that, and I found it so fascinating because it was one of the greatest, most important, natural geological discoveries of how the Earth actually worked was plate tectonics, and that happened in the 1960s. And when I was in college in the late 70s, the papers and our professors are really just getting their heads around it, and I could tell the excitement that they had because. And this is one of the things I love about geology is it's so logical. Everything fits together. It makes sense. And that's what drew me to geology. But this whole plate tectonic thing was a revolution in the understanding of how our Earth works and landforms and volcanoes and trenches in the oceans. And, for people that are geologists, it may not be exciting, but for us, it was like as good as it gets.
So nerds, quick question for you. Could the lost lands of Atlantis and Lemuria then be at the top of mountain peaks? Could the tectonics have pushed and crushed, and instead of burying these things, have pushed them skyward and created, and I'm doing interpretive dance for those of you listening.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Pushed it skyward. So we're looking maybe in the wrong places for these lost civilizations.
Well, Dave, we got to tap the brakes for a second, okay? I love your thinking. It makes sense, but you have to understand that these processes take a long time. I mean, we're talking millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of years.
Oh, we lost the signal from Scott. I think what he was getting at is I'm right. I'm right. And
Yeah.
he just can't believe I got to it so much faster. Oh, wait, we've
Oh,
reestablished
is that
connection.
how it's going to be? Is that what you're telling me?
Get used to it. Get used to
Yeah, no, for sure. Get used to it.
Nobody's safe. I could push the
Well,
button on anyone.
thank you very
No,
much.
okay, so it takes millions of years
Whoa,
for these
look
things.
at the time. Holy cats. Anyway.
Well, I know in the article it referenced the fact that they think some of these areas are 65,000 years or older that they're uncovering. So I didn't know that, but I guess you're giving us that insight that like the tectonic plates pushing things into mountaintops would take much more than a period of 100,000 years to push it out of our view.
Although, we've seen some active volcanism in places like Hawaii and Iceland and other parts of the world where things can happen fairly quickly. But when we're talking about tectonic plates that are, hundreds and thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of square miles, that takes a little bit longer. And we're not gonna see that in our lifetime. That's for sure.
All right. So I'm just curious. Let me ask real quick, and then I'll let you have it, sweet tea. I just wanted to know, though, across the board, Chachi, starting with you, the idea and concept that there are these lost civilizations that Plato has spoken about and others have come afterwards. Do you believe that these truly existed, or do you think that they were hybridizations of cultures and ideas that this great philosopher was trying to share knowledge and bleeding that together? What's your thoughts, Chachi?
A lot of big words in there to dissect, Dave. I'm going to take this, as Scott would say, let's tap the brakes here. Let's take it a step back. I do believe that there were civilizations that existed that as the waters recede and are now rising, to Scott's point, over millions of years, we will get to see them again, but not in our lifetime.
All right. What about you, Sweet Tea? Did these lands, these peoples really exist at some point, or are they fairy tales?
I'll use this as my opportunity instead of a question. Uh, yes, absolutely. I'm sure there were civilizations everywhere that have been sunken or whatever, covered in water, but I don't think they're all Atlantis. Like, why does every
Right.
single land mass have to be Atlantis?
Well, that's the curious point, right? We hear of these two, Atlantis and Lemuria, the most. At least that's what I hear. Maybe it's because of the world we walk in. Those are the two that are most closely related to, possible alien incursion or things. So we get to hear those more often. Greg, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that the actual places of Atlantis and Lemuria at one point existed?
I do. There's too much evidence out there that these civilizations, I guess, existed. So while they may be, I don't know, turned into legend, they might have been, added to, but absolutely, this came from somewhere. There's too much evidence there.
All right. And then, Sweet Tea, did you have a specific question you wanted to throw out there now, or did you kind of blend it into your answer?
Kind of. It's just, why does this specific article in Australia, why does that have to be Atlantis? It just seems weird to me that every single time we find new covered in water landmass, it's Atlantis. Like, I'm sure it's everywhere all over the globe.
Scott, what do you make of that? Why the popularity with Atlantis that's the first place we jump to?
Well, because Atlantis has sort of been, weaving throughout history for a long time. I mean, Brother Francis Bacon wrote about the New Atlantis, and so let me just give you a quick synopsis, if you don't mind, about what Atlantis is, according to the tradition that I am a part of. It's a Templar tradition that we talk about in the new show for the first time. And basically what it is Atlantis was a worldwide culture that existed and was connected to the pyramids that we find all around the world, ancient historical sites, Machu Picchu, and I mean, the list goes on, and they're on every single continent. And there was this high culture that existed. But what happened about 13,000 years ago, some people want to nail it down to 12,500 years ago, there was a catastrophic event. And one of the most, well-known examples of something catastrophic that happened is Göbekli Tepe. Are you guys familiar with Göbekli Tepe?
Yes, but for our listeners that may not, can you give a summary of that as well?
Yeah, well, it was discovered about 25, 30 years ago. And basically what it is, it's in Turkey, and it's an ancient observatory that has these amazing carved standing monoliths that are, in circular structures, and they've only uncovered about 5% of it, but clearly it's an ancient observatory. And what they're doing there now is a science called archaeoastronomy. And basically what they're doing is they're looking at the alignments of these various standing stones, and they can calculate when they were lined up with particular constellations and, in the distant past. And we're talking about over 13,000 years ago, when Göbekli Tepe was covered up intentionally. So the question is, why did they do that? Well, the reason is they knew something catastrophic was coming. And I don't know how far you want me to run down the rabbit hole, but there's something called precession of the equinoxes. And essentially what happens is we have the 12 primary constellations of the zodiac that encircle the Earth. But because of the Earth's wobble, it slowly rotates, and it's measured on the spring equinox at sunrise. And if you go to a high point anywhere on the Earth, the astronomer priests of many cultures all around the world would look to the east on that before the sun rose. And the zodiacal belt goes through the eastern sky, and whatever constellation was sitting on the horizon and then the sun rose through that, that was considered sacred. That was that age, whether it was Aries, Sagittarius, Gemini, Leo the lion. I'll give you an example. You know, they talk about in Egypt the pyramids being 4,500 years old. That's what the Egyptologists have been saying for a long time. Well, that's flat out BS. The Leo has been around for at least 10,000 years, and was actually Leo the lion, the Sphinx, right? Was the head of a lion in the past when it was first carved out of the stone there in Egypt. But about 4,500 years ago, the head was recarved into the head of a priest or of a pharaoh. And the work of Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist that I highly respect and know personally, says that this thing is over 10,000 years old. And several years ago, I was at a conference and I said, "Hey, Robert, you understand precession, right?" And at the time that this thing was built over 10,000 years ago, Leo the lion was looking at itself, that constellation in the eastern sky at sunrise on the spring equinox. That is hard science, right? And so this cycle that takes 26,000 years for all 12 constellations to cycle through the eastern sky is one great year, as they call it, and the 12 constellations are called a great month. And I could, keep going on this, but the point is that 13,000 years ago, or about one half cycle, the Atlantean culture worldwide knew that something catastrophic was coming. Now, the current working hypothesis is that our Earth, our solar system, in fact, intersected a massive meteorite shower that pelted the Earth and basically wiped out pretty much all of this Atlantean culture. According to our Templar tradition, what they did was they knew this was going to happen because it had happened before, about every 13,000 years. That's why Göbekli Tepe was covered up to protect it. But what they also did is they hid information, technology, maps, relics, remains of important people in the eastern region. And for someday, and the survivors of that cataclysm eventually became the Assyrians, the ancient cultures that passed on this knowledge. And eventually, in the year 1100, certain Templar families that were bloodline and ideological descendants of these Atlanteans going through Egypt and Israel, Egypt and beyond, knew that it was time to assert themselves. And so they formed this Templar order, the Knights Templar. They captured Jerusalem. Hello? I lost you there. Okay.
We're with you.
My screen went dark for a sec. I thought, okay, I got to shut up. But anyway, what happened was they captured Jerusalem. And everybody thinks the standard narrative is the Templars fought, the Crusades for Christendom and got back the Holy Land. And that's a bunch of BS. That was not the true mission. What they did was establish a base of operations in the region so they could go throughout these countries and these areas, including Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and round up the stuff that they knew was there that the Atlanteans had left for them. And then when they were done in the 1180s, of course, history will tell you they were defeated by the Muslims and driven out. No, they were done. It was an organized, intentional withdrawal because the plan all along was to reestablish that ancient culture called Atlantis far to the west. And of course, you know what happened with the Templars in 1307. They were put down by the church and the monarchies, King Philip the Fair of France, and they disappeared into history. And of course, that's BS too. They just went underground. They brought those treasures, that knowledge, the relics, the technology over here for someday. And they hid it all across North America, well, on the eastern seaboard of North America, including Oak Island.
Oak Island?
Yeah. And then the founding fathers, who were the ideological and bloodline descendants of that same tradition, picked up the mantle, recovered the artifacts, the wealth, the remains, the technology, and they founded something called the United States of America. And that's the secret. That's the story of the true story of the founding of our country. As Francis Bacon said, the New Atlantis. Some people call it the New Jerusalem. In other documents that we have that I was out east talking about with my friend Don, some called it the Free Templar State. And I just want to say one last thing that I want people to remember, because now more than ever in this society today, especially in our politics on both sides of the aisle, these morons have no idea what they're talking about. They talk about the Constitution, they talk about the tenets within it, and our founding fathers that wrote those amazing documents would be rolling over in their graves right now. Remember, this all goes back to the put down and the persecution of the Roman Catholic Church, of the Templars. That's why we have a separation of church and state in our Constitution. It's very important. We are not a Christian nation. We have mostly Christians here, and that's great. But we have Muslims, Buddhists, we have Native American people. All of our blood is red, right? And whatever you call deity, God, Yahweh, whatever, we're all talking about the same thing. So there is no one religion, and that is what our founding fathers were saying in our Constitution. And the other thing is that people forget is we fought the revolution against a monarchy. So let's not forget, folks, it's important to understand where we came from. And if we don't understand that, we have no chance of understanding where we're going to go in the future. And I hope that makes sense. My speech is over. Thank you very much. Just throw money.
Scott, I think I can speak for everyone here, Dave, real fast, Scott.
Yeah.
Why don't we invite Scott back on the show when he's got actually some information to share with us?
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's
No,
too
that
shy.
was
It's hard to get
fantastic,
him out of
Scott.
the show.
As long as any of us are quiet listening.
Let's talk about agates. I mean, something. God, I'll have a drink.
It's
Thank
too
you.
bad
Thank
there's
you,
not a
Bobby.
series on television that could go into the
Oh,
mysteries
yeah.
We
of
should
the
do one.
Knights Templar.
Who are the Knights Templar? History has suggested that it was an order founded in 1118 specifically to defend pilgrims, but we know in fact this was actually a cover. The Templar Order was founded because there was a knowledge that there had been a pre-Diluvian civilization and that it had collapsed during a massive cataclysm. And not only that, but the Mayans and other Nahuatl cultures, they all had a myth that they had come from a previous civilization that had been destroyed by cataclysm.
So what I'm hearing you say is that Atlantis was not necessarily a place that sunk into the ocean. It was a high culture.
Yeah, it was more like a worldwide network. The Templars understood that they needed to track down the pockets of survival of the knowledge, the technology, the philosophies that had been preserved from this pre-Diluvian civilization.
Mysteries of the Knights Templar only on Gaia. We have a link for that on today's program guide, so make sure you check it out and go witness the series that Scott is a part of. Amazing series as well. A lot of great information. And if you think in just the little encapsulation he gave you here tonight was a lot of holy beep, I got to think about this. Wait till you see the series and what they uncover, what they're able to share. And that's of what you are able to talk about, Scott. What is that? 1 billionth of what the real knowledge is out there?
Yeah, it really is. And you know, I mean, the truth is, and this was really one of the main themes of America on Earth that we did, is a lot of this history, the truth about what happened has been intentionally covered up. And, you know, well, I don't want to run down the rabbit hole too far, but when I first came to that realization in real life, after working on the Kensington Runestone and realizing that how important it was and what it meant to the truth about what really happened, not just here in North America, but really across the world. It was mind-blowing at first. It was humbling, but it also pissed me off. And, you know, I just don't like when things, when the truth, when the truth isn't told. And that's what I do. I do forensics for a living, and it started in the construction field, and then it moved into these strange artifacts and morphed into this amazing history that we've uncovered. And at this time, with the technology we have, and the information, ability to get information out to a lot of people instantly, those walls of deception are slowly crumbling. This technology also can work in the wrong way too, and some of that is happening. But the truth will come. I mean, it's like we always say, right? Those dirty little secrets, eventually they bubble to the surface, and it'll happen here too. And Atlantis is a huge part of that, and it's time the world knew. For our own good.
Sweet Tea posed an interesting question. Why do all of these areas that surface, do we want to call it Atlantis? If this was truly a high culture, could it be that all of these places that we are finding now were part of Atlantis? The high culture, that status, that's all the part that's now gone.
Yes. And, what we're finding too is that there's massive networks of underground societies or underground refuges that the survivors, many of the survivors of that cataclysm, wrote it out down there. And then when they came back, we are the descendants of those survivors. And that information is now being disseminated for us to do something with it. And let's do a good job with it. But it starts with the truth. And what more can I say? I mean, now more than ever, the truth is important. It seems like there's more disinformation and misinformation. And it's really up to all of us to be responsible and dig for the truth and not be fooled by this nonsense that's out there. And that's part of why I'm doing this. I just think it's that important.
Well, we do too. Scott, thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to pop on with us for a half an hour tonight. And we'll look forward to connecting to you when the new book is out. All right.
That sounds great, Dave. Thank you so much. You've been a great friend for many years. And I got 3 new friends here, and it was great working with you guys. And we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you very much. Scott Wolter, make sure you check out the new show again on Gaia. We have a link for Mysteries of the Night Templar on tonight's program guide. Go watch it. Check it out for yourself. I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. If you are a fan of this show and all of the information that we cover here, and you want to start getting to the real answers behind the cultures, the gods, the mindsets from where we once came, that is the show you want to tune into and check. Scott is an amazing wealth of knowledge and always one of my favorite people to talk to. And I had a chance, Chachi, you got to go with me to Scott's house and see the items when he took us over to his secret lair. I can't give that information out, but he took us and allowed us to go see some of the collections he has of these lost artifacts. And we've had him on the show talking about some of these alien artifacts. It's really amazing.
In his possession?
Yes.
In his possession. It was amazing. I wish I would have got a chance to ask him about it. I mean, he talked about all that stuff tonight, and yet his real knowledge is agate, right? So if he knows that much about that, imagine what he knows about agate. And he openly shared it with us when we got to go to his house. And I was just sitting there with my jaw dropped open. The amount of information that he has in his head about agate, and as well as these other topics we learned tonight. It's amazing. I hope he someday opens up a museum of sorts to share what he has. I hope he gets to do that because people would love to see it.
I have it on good authority. I can't say anything about it yet, but I have it on good authority that Scott is going to be joining me at one of the premier paranormal conferences this year. And Greg's quite familiar with it. That's all I can say. But as soon as we know more, as soon as ink has dried and contracts are written, we will let you know for sure. And hopefully you'll get a chance to come out and see some of the cool items that he has and get a chance to hear his presentations and the amazing facts that he has. And I will say this, Oak Island, if you've been fascinated by that TV show, but feeling like there's something missing, there is, and Scott Wolter knows. So you guys will get a little bit more information about that coming up later on as well. And as soon as his book is out, we'll get him back on the show. We may make it like a 3-part series here on the program so we can get in deep and really get to understand everything that's going on.
I'm so excited that we have a new host. It's going to be so great.
Shut up. Good Lord. Always so hurtful. We have to take just a very quick break. When we come back, we've got more to discuss. Conspiracies. A portal to another dimension may have been found in one of the most unlikely places. We've got that and more to discuss right here on the Paranormal 60 News. That's right. It is time to shift the paranormal. Oh, I said shift. Grow up, everybody. If you want to come on out and investigate the paranormal with me and Dalen Spratt from Graveyard Shift, the Ghost Brothers Lights Out, and Fright Club, this is going to be an amazing weekend. April 19th through the 21st at the Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota. It will be a weekend of fun, fascinating information, and if you're not too careful, you might just have an experience with the other side. Get more information at darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com.
In winter's grasp, a chilling tale unfolds. Haunted Magazine's issue 40. Secrets to be told. Al Capone's ghost, in shadows it creeps. A spectral mobster, where darkness seeps. 14 signs of a poltergeist's might, haunting whispers in the silent night. Pascagoula UFO, 50 years gone by. A cosmic encounter, reaching the sky. The ghost train of Tate Bridge echoes in the mist. A phantom journey, where souls exist. Haunted Magazine issue 40 is out now, available from selected outlets and bit.ly/Haunted Magazine. Don't be normal, be paranormal.
All right, we are back, and what an evening it has become. Scott Wolter walking us through the concepts and ideologies behind Atlantis. Do you guys feel like you've learned more about Atlantis than you expected when we said, hey, let's talk about this story tonight on the show?
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about landmass. This is great.
Yeah. I like that we're able to uncover different elements and having experts like Scott who are willing to step forward and share a little bit of insight with us. Greg, I know you've done a lot of deep dives. You've been in the Navy. You've had a chance to explore and see the world yourself. Before we completely let go of the Atlantis aspect, was there any part of the article that intrigued you to the concept that there may be more to this find and that we are about to uncover something massive?
Well, I think that they're gonna concentrate a lot more and look at it a lot closer to find out whether there were any cities or whether it was just, some hunter gatherers that lived there. I get really excited about this stuff because there's so many things that are mysteries to us, right? We have all these legends and everything, but all of this stuff I know for a fact is laying in the water right now for us to find. We just have to have the technology to get that for regular people to get that deep and to go to those locations that are going to hold these things, because it's all there, 300 feet deep on the coast. That's where the humans were building things. That's what they were doing. They were shipping, they were doing everything. And it's really exciting because I think in the next 100 years, the stuff that they're going to find down there is going to be amazing.
You know, I had a chance for many years to work in the gold and silver industry, collectible coins and such. And I had a chance to talk to some people that were involved in reclamation of treasure ships and the things that they would find. And it was so funny. One of the guys I was talking to, he goes, Dave, what's so annoying is how many things you've probably stepped over at the beach, having no clue that it's worth $500,000. And I'm like, what, somebody's iPod in the sand? He's like, no. He goes, I don't know how some of these guys who've never seen this stuff before know what they're looking for, but they'll go down and see what to you and I looks like a crusty rock. And they'll go, that right there, that is a pure silver wine decanter. And you're like, dude, what? And they bring it up and they do the cleansing process, and the stuff starts breaking off of it, and there's this gorgeous pure silver wine decanter. And it's because they know that the coral that looks like this only grows on things that are silver, and these little barnacles only grow and multiply on gold or copper. And my mind was like, what are you saying? And it was like, yeah, you have no clue. Garbage, rock things you've kicked into the water and messed with at the beach could be a knot of gold coins, and you would have absolutely no idea what you've got in your hands. So there are so many amazing treasures that are close to us. One of my favorite pieces I have is a coin from the El Cazador, which sunk right outside of New Orleans, not far. This ship was loaded with gold and silver to help the Spanish keep control of New Orleans and that part of America at the point. The ship sunk. They didn't have that infusion of money, that infusion of food and all the things that they were waiting to come over. That's what led to the Louisiana Purchase. And that's what led to America becoming America. Those coins that were aboard were the original American silver dollars. So these treasure pieces, and I own a few of them, are really cool because it's like literally these coins not making it 20 more miles inland changed the shape of our history. And I that just blows me away. I love when I can collect and own pieces like that. And unfortunately, I don't have many in my collection, but I love when I got these amazing stories that come with history and the pieces that are, like I said, 20 miles out, and it was only found like in the last 30 years, the shipwreck, and it's hundreds, 100, 200 years old. Crazy.
Yeah, there, with a lot of the rivers that are kind of drying up because we're pulling all the water out of everything, there's these Civil War wrecks that are popping up here and there. I did some research about 25 years ago on the coast of Texas. I am now a honorary Texas Admiral in the Texas Navy.
Name dropper.
Yeah. And through a bunch of people that were doing research, we actually found one of the old ships from the Republic of Texas, and it's actually buried underneath a restaurant's parking lot right on the beach.
And it just so happens that's the restaurant that Chachi just purchased. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So he's bringing Long John Silver's back. So thank you.
Dave, forgive me, but I thought this was a drinking show, and somehow it's become educational tonight.
Yeah, it's
Sorry
a
about that.
lot.
I
trying to
still had a
catch up.
chance to drink during Scott's conversation. What are you drinking there, Chachi?
Scotch.
Scotchy it is.
What?
Hashtag Scotchy. Greg, what's your drink of choice this evening?
Ben Milam bourbon. Bing.
Ooh. Good
Very
call.
nice.
Mr. Lawson.
Very nice. What have you got going, Sweet Tea?
Oh, well, I started off with a Barbary Coast. Barbary Coast. It's a weird word, right?
Yeah, Barbary
And
Coast. Sure.
very
Not really.
strong drink. But then I went to Pinot Grigio because that was a very strong drink.
Nice.
But yeah, it's good times.
I
You
get
can
you.
see how to make it on my Instagram. Wink.
That's right. Yeah, we've got anytime
That
you're
was funny.
interested
That was
in the drinks that Sweet Tea's got, you can go check her Instagram, and we have links for Greg and for Sweet Tea on every one of these news programs. So go check them out, and you can see the video. She actually shows you how she makes each one of the drinks. She shows you the dusty old Rolodex she has to dig through to magically select the perfect drink for each episode. So go take a look at it. They're always entertaining. All right, do you feel a little bit better now, Chachi, now that we've talked about alcohol again?
Can we just talk about a little more? I don't know.
I'm
That just
game.
seemed like
Let's
a no.
go.
What?
It's time now for Upon Further Review.
Yeah.
I'm
Upon
so excited tonight
Are you?
because I think the movie we're going to talk about, which you reviewed,
Uh-huh.
I actually watched this week. I think. I'm not sure. Let's talk about it.
Let's
Did
find
you
out.
know?
Usually people request one of my friends, my many friends, and we're going to have Scott Wolter doing. We've got to come up with a perfect movie to make Scott Wolter watch.
Something that's really jacked up with all the archaeology is wrong.
Yes.
Yes.
Lots of boobs. Lots of
Yes.
boobs.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah,
Those
some
things.
horror, scary movie that's dealing with that. But anyway, usually I task somebody, but I have had, I'm kidding you or not kidding you here, I've had probably about 25 emails come to me saying, Dave, have you seen Nefarious? And I'm like, no, what about Nefarious? You have to see this movie. You will love it. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like they're throwing the line out there, trying to reel me in like I've done to so many of my friends. So I went online just to check out the trailer and let's take a look together.
Hello? You should have accepted my offer, James.
Execution scheduled for 11 p.m. But he's trying to convince us he's gone insane.
And therefore incapable of being executed.
I need you to prove he's faking it.
Edward? I'm gonna ask you some questions.
I'm not Edward. I'm a demon.
Demons aren't really a thing. What happened to Edward?
We own him.
We?
He's a master manipulator. You have your head so twisted around you think you're the killer, not him.
And give me something to make me believe you. Prove to me you're a demon.
It's probably just a coincidence.
I want to talk to
The real
Edward.
Makes me do that. I can't stop him.
I need you to see something. You got a fan. Did the same thing with all his victims.
Help me!
I'm trying to, Edward, but you have to answer my questions. You have to tell me the truth.
It won't let me!
It can go away. It can go away. Yes?
No. It's starting to happen. Can you feel it, James? Can you feel it? I think it's time we tell you exactly what it is that we'd like you to do.
Yeah. I was sold. It's Sean Patrick Flannery, one of my absolute favorite actors. You know, he was young Indiana Jones in the old TV series Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. He was Powder in the movie Powder. And most
Powder.
importantly,
That's where I recognized him from.
he is one of the McManus brothers from Boondock Saints, one of my
Boondock.
all-time favorite movies. He has been on so many different programs, so many different things. He is a great actor. And I have to tell you, I am surprised that this movie slipped past me without me even knowing that it came out. I am surprised after watching this movie that he was not nominated for an Academy Award. His acting is brilliant. He is so good at what he does in this movie. And this movie could basically, and I would love to put this on as a stage play because it is basically one set the entire time. It is this psychologist and this prisoner sitting in the cell talking as the counselor's trying to decide the fate of this man. Is he crazy? Will he save his life by saying he's insane? Or is he sly as a fox and this guy knows it? and you're kind of sliding between realities throughout the entire thing. And there are subtleties that Sean Patrick Flanery does that are so brilliant in this role that it keeps you guessing throughout the entire movie. I loved this flick, Nefarious. I would say, honestly, 1 out of 5 phantoms to rate this movie. I'm going to put this movie at a serious 4.75 phantoms.
Oh.
Yeah. That's how good I thought this movie was. Chachi, apparently you watched it. What did you think?
I was an hour into the movie, and I was like, I've just been watching 2 people at a table in a room. And I have been just absolutely enthralled with the conversation of the 2. I'm like, how did they do this? I mean, the budget must have been $19 because it was a room in a prison, right?
Right.
But how Sean Patrick Flanery goes back and forth, and I don't want to give it away, but between his prisoner and this demon that he's saying that he is, unbelievable. Unbelievable. At least 4.75.
And what made it so creepy, you don't need the eyes turning white or the head twisting around or the voices. Although there are some twists to his voice throughout the series or throughout the movie, they don't lean into the standard tropes, and he is creepy. Creepy.
Yeah.
So dark, so creepy. It reminded me almost of that movie Primal Fear with Richard Gere and Edward Norton.
Yep.
Which was very well done. And this felt like a paranormal themed version of that. And definitely worth your time to watch if you have not seen this. And honestly, I don't know why this movie was not gifted some award for the acting and the cinematography. And is it just me, or did the guy that played the psychologist, did he not look like he could be Christopher Reeve's son?
Yeah, he's very distinct looking.
Now, how many phantoms would you give this, Chachi?
Oh, at least 4.75.
Yeah.
I would watch it again because I think there are things that you miss, because there are a couple times you just kind of turn away, like what's about to happen? I don't want to see.
Right.
And again, for 2 people to be sitting at a table and have you that enthralled, amazing. I'm looking here at the box office. It made $5.4 million. The only thing I can think is the marketing budget wasn't there to market it, because I had never heard of it until it was on Amazon Prime and it popped up there. But
I watched it by accident. So.
Was it in theaters or was it just streaming?
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
$5 million in the theater.
I had no idea.
2 tickets nowadays, I think.
April last year, it made it into the theater. So you watched it by accident as well, Greg?
Yeah, I was just flipping through and it was there, and it was very, very intriguing. You know, if you have a TV show or a movie about, let's say, doing radio, you can sit there and watch things that are messed up. It's like, oh, that's this. Yeah, it was really interesting when the detective and the doctor go into the witness room and they take the doctor's cell phone away from him, but the detective has his pistol on him, and they go in the prison. I was like, what? How does that work?
Yeah, I was wondering if, had you watched it, do you just sit there and pick apart the legalities?
Oh, it's horrible. If it's a military movie, I'm just like, it stresses me out, because I'm like, why didn't they pay me $100? I could have told them to put the patch on the right side.
Yeah.
Dave, did you just meet Greg? Like, of course.
Well, no, it affects me too. Like Greg says, if you watch something that you know, it's hard to give that temporary suspension of disbelief, because you're like, boy, that just seems like it was so easy to do. Why didn't you just do it right?
Just do it right.
Right. But
why wouldn't you do that?
But the movie is so well done.
It is done.
That you forget you're watching a crime procedural. It's like NCIS or LA Law, with the devil. It's crazy good.
Yeah.
So check it out. See it for yourself. Yes, Chachi. What other great detail do you have for us?
Yeah, well, Dave knows me. Once I know one thing about something, I need to know 100 things about it.
Yes.
And so, very interesting. The critics overall, if you look at 21 critic reviews, gave it a 33% out of 100. So the critics panned it.
Wow.
The audience who's watched it and rated it, out of a score of 100, gave it a 96.
There it is.
So the critics were wrong. The audience are saying this is a great movie.
They often are.
Yeah.
I mean, who are the critics?
The critics are a bunch of cops and detectives watching it and going, hey, he shouldn't have gone in there with a gun. They forget the movie aspect. I get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what bothers me, though? This movie reminds me of the fact that I had a chance to meet George Romero, the godfather of the zombie
Hello.
movies, right?
Yeah.
And I met him and was talking to him, and I said, when are we going to see a new George Romero zombie movie before they remake Day of the Dead? And he shook his head and he said, they've remade it. It's coming out next year. And he goes, what makes me sick is I'm asking $13 million to make a brand new George Romero movie. And they're telling me, no, George, that's too much. And then they're paying somebody $25 million to make a remake of my movies.
Yeah.
That's just got to be so aggravating.
And then he finally gets the capital, and all the fans have been rattling their cages, banging their pots and pans to get a new George Romero movie, and nobody goes and sees Land of the Dead. And it
Land of the
tanks in
Dead
the
was
box
great.
office. It is a fantastic
Love that movie.
zombie
it wasn't
movie.
very good.
It was. It really what was it? Oh,
Thank you.
Bad
Is it-
connection again.
There we are.
that horrible
Hey, this is the
connection.
way I like it.
We'll have her back next week.
I don't know when she doesn't realize you just agree with me on everything, or you get disconnected. It's the way of the sorry. Oh, yeah.
You threw over
No,
a drink
it
there.
was a really good movie. You're wrong, but that's okay.
I don't
No.
know what you're talking about. I thought it was great.
I was talking about how wrong you are that it is.
No,
a
I'm
bad
not
movie.
wrong. I thought it was a great movie. I don't know what you're saying.
That's the attitude we like around here. Yeah. Be like Dave.
You're gonna go
More
far.
like Dave. Yeah.
I love
Um,
Romero so much. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So that movie came out, hit the theaters, had a great cast, had a cool twist to the concept, and nobody went and saw it in the theaters. All the people banging their pans and begging for a new Romero movie, and then nobody went out and backed it up. It's so irritating. And they had a major budget for advertising. I remember the commercials, and nothing came of it.
Was it Big Ed?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to hang out with him
Name
at
drop.
Comic-Con or something.
I don't remember any advertising for Land of the Dead. I remember seeing it on Netflix and being like, "Oh, what's this? When did this happen?"
Wow, it's great.
Yeah.
No, I saw it and I loved it
That's what
very
I'm talking about.
much.
John
Land of the Dead, is that the
Leguizamo
one
in it?
with Danger Will Robinson?
No.
No.
That's
I
a
don't even. What movie are you
different
talking?
franchise.
Good God. Let's get to conspiracies before Sweet Tea is completely obliterated and unable to
That's a
talk
good
about
idea.
it. You had an article that you shared with me this week about conspiracies and why we are so fascinated with them. Talk to me a little bit about the article, the study, and what the findings mean.
All right, the people who put this study together are Shauna Bowles, Thomas
She's not
Costello,
Shauna
and
Bowles.
Arbor Tissimi.
Okay.
There were 170 studies, 257 samples, 1,429 effect sizes involved. This involved 158,473 participants. So they ran the gamut there.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Basically, let's just break it down.
Yeah, please.
All right, cool. Greg,
Where should we start?
I just want
Should
to.
we give
I'm
you a
gonna
break?
go.
Come on,
I'm
come
gonna
on.
go.
It's so owly after
This
a few
is-
drinks and an hour into the show. Let's break it down for us. Come on. I'm back on task.
Come on, we're
All
listening.
right. Are you? There are
Yes.
3 key needs, and that is understanding one's environment,
Mhm.
feeling secure and safe, and maintaining a superior image of oneself or one's in-group, their social circus
Mhm.
or circle.
Circle Circus. I was a big
Why-
fan of Family Circus. the
It was so
cartoon,
fun,
yeah,
and
so cute.
that Timmy and the ghost guy,
Billy,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Whatever. So basically, what it runs down to is people that believe conspiracy theories, they very much need it for their safety, their mental safety. They're like, you know what? I don't like how the rest of society is acting. I don't like how I feel in my society, in my social circle. So I'm going to believe whatever you tell me if it fits into my worldview. And of course, it's like there's humility that's involved with it. If you have very low humility, you'll be like, yeah, I'll believe, yeah, sure. And let me tell you, I don't have a lot of intelligence, so I'm going to also tell you what's actually going on in the world. It's it's not it's not stupid people, it's not like scared people, but it is a lot of those people. And they
So
found that 90% of the people out of 158 something thousand,
mhm.
90% of those people are susceptible to believing conspiracy theories.
I think everybody is to a level, right? Depending on the conspiracy
Absolutely.
that's put out there. And
Mhm.
that's what becomes so frustrating with me. I have people ask, Dave, when are you going to delve into this conspiracy or that conspiracy? And I think, like I said, sometimes I just don't want to go in those dark places because I
Mm.
like to be an escape for our listeners. I like to take you into places of wonder and weirdness, sometimes scary, but scary in a way that it kind of feels safe. When you start talking about Illuminati and dark forces within our government that are changing things, and they can do this and can do that to us, it's really unsettling. And then that affects me more than going into a room where I think there is a demonic prisoner, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something that seems out there to me, but I would rather face that than face the reality of what my own country or my own people or my own family may have been doing to me without me knowing about it. You hear about these kids that were kind of given over to the government to test with drugs and in changing babies in hospitals, separating twins at birth to see what they grew up to be like. And you just hear all of these things come out, and it leaves you sitting there going, this is not a world I want to be a part of because it's so disarming to me. And see, to me, buying into conspiracy theories would make me feel more on edge and more unraveled in
Mhm.
my sanity than accepting that there are things going on that I'm not familiar with. But it gets hard to separate the reality from the fiction, and the people that buy into the fiction so deeply and passionately and vehemently, they're the ones that terrify the hell out of me because there is no form of logic. I could walk you through it and they're going to tell you how you manipulated this and you pumped gas into the room and have been using hypnotic suggestion on me every time you move your hand this way because I've seen videos talking about that. And now you believe what I'm telling you. And it's so weird to me that people's brains work in that way that it's terrifying. And I know, Greg, we've talked to you about people's belief systems when you're out doing police work, and you have to walk that line very carefully to not instigate, irritate, or get them into a more aggressive state. But has anybody ever ranted to you about something so obscenely bizarre that it actually frightens you? Because what if this guy is real? What if what he's saying is true?
Oh, absolutely. When I worked mental health for 2 years, I had multiple cases like that a week. It's just a conspiracy theory with the government, CIA, robots, technology, software, all of that stuff. And the really disturbing part is I've been working in law enforcement for 32 years, and about 20 or 30% of that stuff is absolutely true.
Hmm.
So when you look at that, Alex Jones, if he would have just reeled it back just a little bit, he was just so ridiculous on everything, but he had 20% of what he's talking about is absolutely happening. And it is absolutely terrifying when you look at what we're spending government money on and how we control that through funneling that money into corporations. And that sort of manipulation is just 20 years ago, you had a full hat on your head. Today, you just kind of go, oh yeah, that's sure they're doing that.
Yeah, that's bizarre to me. That's chilling. But there are so many things that have come forward to
The
make you
JFK stuff.
start to realize that things maybe aren't what we've been led to believe. Listen,
No.
I'm a big proponent of the moon landing. I believe we landed on the moon. I believe that Neil Armstrong was up there, Buzz Aldrin, and that they did that. And then all of a sudden, Buzz Aldrin, after slugging people for asking the question and being just livid. How stupid can you be? Of course this took place. All of a sudden, there are these videos of him, one of them, he's in school talking to kids, and they go, what was the scariest thing about the moon landing? And he just clearly looks at him and goes, that it didn't happen. and that he's in these little interview bits, and he just casually throws out, we didn't go. It didn't really happen. And it's not like, oh, well, we didn't go. Wink, wink. It's just casual, like, you guys have been scammed this entire time, and none of it actually took place. And all of a sudden, my whole paradigm feels real uneasy and unhappy. Like I said, the one thing that keeps me going that it did take place is I believe China and Russia would love to rub our nose in it to prove that we were never there and that we lied to our people, and that China and Russia have not said that, and they've sent probes, and they have observatories that can see our garbage we left on the moon. Tells me that we made it to the moon. But did we make it to the moon and find visitors, which there's the common belief. Now, again, these conspiracies, to me, that's not a conspiracy. That's either fact or fiction. Why would we hide it? I think we understand that there may have been reason behind it. Maybe these things said, you came here once, you've seen it, go home. Don't come back here, and could explain the 50-year lapse between our visits to the moon.
What's the difference between fact and fiction and conspiracy theory? What you had just posited seems like a conspiracy theory.
Well, it is. That's the conspiracy theory, is that we didn't go to the moon, or that when we got there, we met with aliens.
Right, but the alien, right, that you were like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just...
In that sense, it's not this deep vein of, well, it began with the Templars. And I'm not putting down the Templars, but there's so many of the things that go, and they go all the way back, and so many jumps and leaps of just strangeness to me, that it's like, no, I could believe that we could go to the moon and encounter things there. Here's a perfect example. This video is making the rounds right now, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. Carl Wolf was a witness for the Disclosure Project back in 2001. He testified about his experience as a former Air Force sergeant involved in photographic interpretation. Wolf claimed to have seen images of structures on what we call the dark side of the moon that appeared artificial, suggesting the existence of extraterrestrial bases. His testimony aimed to encourage further investigation into the possibility of alien presence on the moon. Here's clips from that actual deposition.
My name is Carl Wolf, and I was a precision electronics with a top secret crypto clearance in the United States Air Force. I was stationed at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. In 1965, I was loaned to the Lunar Orbiter Project at NASA. They had problems with a piece of electronic equipment that was bottlenecking their production of photographs. I went to the facility, and when I walked into the facility, I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning. Airman Second Class was in the dark room at that time. I was also an Airman Second Class. I was interested in how the whole process functioned, how the data got from the lunar orbiter to the laboratory. I asked the young man if he described the process to me. He did. He said to me, in a very distressed way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. I worked there for 3 more days, and I remember going home and naively thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news. And here it is, more than 30 years later, and I will testify under oath before Congress that what I'm saying is the truth.
So, wow, right? I mean, that's bombshell kind of information. That why am I 56 years old? This testimony came out in 2001, and I'm only now hearing about it. Is bizarre to me, and certainly starts to reset the calibration of what I believe, or what I think I believe. In Dr. Stephen Greer's new documentary, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, he presents an expose of 100 years of illegal UFO secrecy, which he says has cost humanity centuries of spiritual, cultural, and technological development. Carl Wolf, that was presented in that video and the audio bit for those of you listening, was presented it to the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. in 2001. That's what that clip is from. And it's part of Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project testimonies. Sadly, but maybe not too surprisingly, Mr. Wolf died in a biking accident in 2018. So it's interesting that just before this disclosure movement and things like that, this guy dies. Now, it can also be said, but Dave, that was 17 years prior. They waited a long time to ice this cat if it was really part of a conspiracy. And people do die in biking accidents. It happens. So there is that. I mean, you know, it'd be real easy to slide down that element of, look at this, but on a one-off. But if you start looking at other people that have come forward that have died in surprising, mysterious ways, can we look at it and say, well, is it that surprising? It was his 60s. He was a heavy smoker. He was overweight and drinking alcohol all the time. So his death at the age of 58 may not actually be that surprising after all. So those are the moments, I mean, we have to reel it back in a little bit and take a look at it. I could easily make and I've joked about this when I've done my lectures on possessed and haunted movies and cursed films, that you hear about all these deaths associated with one movie. And I said, and if you don't believe in curses for movies, do you know that as of 2023, there's not one surviving member of Gone with the Wind? Sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Is that true?
It was made 100 years ago. Yeah, as of now, everybody's dead.
Wow.
So
Oh my God.
could we pin it to the Gone with the Wind curse? I don't think so.
Obviously. Wait, what?
Right, exactly. So it's in the way it's presented. I could easily sway it and present and go, do you realize that these people died within this span? Blah, blah, blah. Now, Poltergeist movie, that's weird. There were so many deaths associated with every movie, including the lead actress, all of a sudden developing a blockage and dying in the middle of filming. So you start looking at that and you think, oh, what did they piss off?
Twilight Zone movie?
Yeah.
Nosferatu was a big one like that.
What was Nosferatu? I don't know about.
They're all dead.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, true. See? You play a vampire, you rip off Bram Stoker and create a character called Count Orlok and rip off the whole story, but just change the names. Everybody eventually died. Weird.
Chachi wants to say something.
Does
I
he?
can tell. Yeah.
Okay, Chach, what have you got?
No, I've been enjoying my drinks this evening. So knowing that Sweet Tea was going to talk about this tonight, she and I caught up earlier today. And so I did a little research. Time Magazine had done a little research of their own and identified through their own surveys the top 10 conspiracy theorists that Americans believe.
Okay.
The
So I've got
theorists
that
or the
list in front of me.
theories? Okay.
I've got that list in front of me.
Okay.
I would love to know your opinions, what you think might be on that list, but preferably, obviously, number one.
JFK.
JFK is number one.
Moon landing
is number 5.
Wow.
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth.
Not on here.
What?
There's like 3 people that believe in that.
The dark
you've
side
never
of the
been
moon.
on Reddit.
The things on the moon.
Moon
Alien
landings were
interaction.
fake. That's
Paul
number
McCartney.
6. McCartney's number 4. Very good.
Wow.
Roswell.
Number 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So run them off for us from 10 to 1.
10. The reptilian elite, which I saw in the chat tonight, a few people talking about that. This one I had never heard. The CIA introducing AIDS. Had you guys ever heard that one?
No.
Yeah.
It was very interesting that I'm sorry.
No.
Keep going.
Frank,
Keep
no,
going.
All right.
Frank.
So it basically the CIA introduced AIDS into 3 different communities in the early 60s, believe it or not, through testing for some other virus. So they were doing a test, but injecting people at the same time. Holocaust revisionism. Now that's a more recent one. That's in the last few years. And this was a 2023 study.
Right.
Oh, like it doesn't exist, that thing?
Like it never happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's
okay.
the complete deniers. Then there are the ones that say, listen, the numbers have been inflated.
It wasn't- yeah.
It definitely happened, but it was not to the tune of 18 million.
Oh,
It was
right.
more like 180,000, which is no less horrific to me.
Yeah,
that,
like that's better.
you know,
Any
right,
sort of
that's the
extermination.
deal.
Correct, yeah.
But you understand the concept then that if it's been reported and accepted as such for so long, and we find out it wasn't really 18 million, it was 180,000, you can understand why people start to question the validity of the entirety of an issue. In this case, we know it happened. My grandfather fought in war because of it and saw these things happen. Sure, Dave, you're just part of the machine, man. You just want us to believe. So I've never been one, and those are why I don't talk to most conspiracy theorists, because I don't want to entertain the concept that the Holocaust did not happen, or Sandy Hook was a false flag and nobody was killed. I got into huge fights and actually did shows, and it was one of the few times I put my foot down saying no. And you can hate me all you want for saying that it's not a hoax. We have friends that had boots on the ground stepping over the bodies of children.
Nope.
And you're going to tell me
No.
it did not happen. Go to hell. That's what I have to say to you.
no.
Yeah,
You took the sweet tea approach to that, Dave. I liked that.
I did. Yeah. Shut
All
up.
right. So, reptilian,
Ugh.
CIA and AIDS, Holocaust revisionism, Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
What?
Jesus
what's that
and
one?
Mary Magdalene were married, and that the
Mhm.
bloodline continues on.
Sure.
I like that a lot.
Moon
And it
landings were
turns out
faked.
Sweet tea is one of the bloodline.
That's
Weird.
correct.
Moon landings were faked. Secret societies such as the Illuminati control the
Right.
world.
Right.
Paul McCartney is dead.
Mhm.
Area 51. That was number 3. Number 2, which nobody mentioned, but I did see in the chat, the 9/11 cover up.
Well, sure.
Right.
And then, of course, the JFK assassination.
Boom.
Now, it's interesting. This was January of 2023. This was done. And
Right.
the article goes on to state that they didn't ask about COVID and the 5G and all that, but that is becoming more and more popular at the time. So we're, a year away since that happened.
Eh, Jan, I don't want to hear about that.
I think it's bizarre that of all of the things that have influenced and affected our world, Illuminati, that you have these power players that are manipulating our reality, of manipulating our world. They're the money guys, all of that. That seems like a big deal. Did we land on the moon? We spent billions of dollars in all of these claims. That seems like it's kind of a big deal. Who killed John F. Kennedy and RFK and Martin Luther King? Those seem like big deals. Did Paul McCartney really die and be replaced?
Number 4. Yeah.
Because everyone wants to know. It was in all the albums.
Because I'm surprised Elvis faked his death was not part of that list then.
I think
Do you
that we
think
all
it's
got
because,
past that.
Again, January 23, I think those folks have started to pass away. You start asking like today's youth, these are the
Wait a
things
minute.
they know
But
about.
the Beatles, Paul McCartney dying would have been earlier on than Elvis faking his death, because
But if
McCartney
you think about it, the
supposedly
Beatles
died.
you got
in
Ringo
like-
and Paul still alive, right?
Right.
Still making music, still being talked about. Elvis is way down the Sirius XM station at this point. I
don't know.
know that's the thing. And I'll give credit to Greg.
Tell Austin Butler that, who just won an Academy Award or some kind of an award. I don't know. I don't.
Hey, I'm getting credit for something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Greg's like, let Eric speak. So listen, we had this discussion one time.
Uh-huh.
I said, musicians go on forever. You'll be remembered. The Beatles remembered hundreds of years from now.
I remember
Greg's
this.
like, really? Tell me the last time anybody talked about Glenn Miller, the biggest artist of the 30s. I'm like, ooh, that's a good one.
In the 90s, maybe?
Okay, sweetie. So anyways.
She's saying that in the 90s would have been probably the last time somebody talked about
I was
The
answering your
1890s.
question?
Yeah.
That's
No. No.
Shut up.
So the question will become,
Yeah.
I always thought musicians would be thought about for hundreds of years. The music would live on. Will it though?
It changes, right? It
Yeah, it
changes.
changes.
So ideas change. I mean, when I'm training young cadets and I have them, crawling around in the mud or whatever, and tell them you sing the theme song from Gilligan's Island, and I'll let you all out of the mud. Yeah, they come to me 30 minutes later and go, "Hey, what's Gilligan's Island?"
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So.
Interesting.
But I feel
Did we
like the
lose my audio?
Beatles and the
no.
The Beatles and Elvis are very different things. Like, the Beatles were weird. Elvis was not. And for the Beatles to be like, we have this weird conspiracy theory planted in a bunch of our songs and a bunch of our albums. I think that's just like, that's the way it goes. Like, yeah, of course that's going to live on further than Elvis because Elvis isn't weird. But people that listen to the Beatles are like, have you heard this weird thing that happens in their music? And also maybe in some of their imagery and also maybe some of their movies?
Well, I know one thing. Lynn and I were at Graceland on Sunday, and Elvis is dead.
Oh, excellent.
Wait, Elvis is dead?
Yeah.
Oh,
I-
that's too bad.
I
Well,
have
listen,
to update
guys.
my calendar.
It's been a good show. Dave, I guess, went ahead and bolted. It looks like he was done with us.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unusual, but this is the time of the show where Dave usually gets tired of our banter. So,
Yeah. That's true.
I had one more thing I wanted to talk about tonight. If you guys have some time here,
I
Please.
wish that you would, yes.
yeah, great. So, one of the things that I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. I was reading the actual story, Sweet Tea, that you were referencing earlier, and it said that a lack of analytical thinking emerged as a significant predictor of people that would believe in conspiracy theories. So they said individuals who exhibited lower levels of analytical thinking and cognitive reflection were more inclined to endorse conspiracy theories. The relationship suggested that a less critical approach to information processing might predispose individuals to accept unverified or speculative ideas.
Imagine that.
But I wonder, I think of it opposite, though. And Greg, I'm going to ask you, being a law enforcement, right? People that think differently, they're saying they lack analytical thinking. I always thought someone that had a completely different view of the accepted cultural norm actually had more analytical thinking. They gave more thought to it. Do you see that in your work as a law enforcement?
Sure. Yeah. In the belief, Dave talked about this earlier, the belief systems that some people have lead them down that trail of solving the crime in their own mind. And so did it, when they're not using any kind of deductive reasoning or any kind of logical, method in order to reach that conclusion. So you have to realize that people have values, assumptions, beliefs, and expectations built in to their experience and their own training, and they're going to go down that line and make the evidence fit what they believe.
Interesting.
It's a damn shame.
Talking about Paul is dead. We lost the original Mr. Schrader, but he's been replaced with the new.
Wow.
Schrader. Yeah. Yeah.
Look at him. He's not as wrinkly.
2.0.
But yeah, you are still purpley.
Oh.
Hey, before we say goodbye, we love to talk science. We've talked about many different things. Chachi, believe it or not, an hour and 28 minutes in, it's time to shine.
The paranormal news crew knows they're gonna show you how science goes. So listen up and learn. They're probing Uranus. They're probing Uranus.
NASA, or we should call it NASTA, nasty, just
Oh,
cannot leave Uranus alone. What is the news about Uranus this week, Chachi?
Dave, first off, am I the only one that has my own song by?
Yes,
Blind
you
Dog?
are.
Yep.
Gotta love Blind Dog.
This story blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
I read it the first
I
time.
don't doubt it.
I'm
Literally.
sorry, what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Uranus
it blew me
him away. Yeah.
away.
Oh, okay. All right.
Away, sweet tea.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know
Mm-hmm.
that the James Webb Telescope, our favorite telescope,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
unveiled a brand new image of Uranus, Dave?
What?
Of what?
And they dubbed Uranus the portal to another dimension.
Oh yeah.
That makes
Thank you.
sense.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Who knew Uranus was a portal to another dimension, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's crazy about this story is that they believe that Well, they being astronomers. Let me be really clear here.
Okay.
Okay, astronomers, not me.
Yeah.
Does astronomers mean something else now? I'm just asking.
We'll find out. What do the
Okay.
astronomers believe?
Go ahead.
Let's
Go
go.
That the image captured,
Uh-huh.
which is the most recent image since the Voyager 2 in 1986, Dave.
Mhm.
How many years is that?
Like 12.
Correct.
Yeah.
The new image discloses a substantial amount of activity around Uranus that they had never seen before.
Oh.
The surroundings
Mm-hmm.
are not the way they were 38 years ago.
Huh.
In a forthcoming
Yeah.
exploration, a
Yeah.
forthcoming
Explorative, yeah.
exploration
Yep.
promises to offer more insights into Uranus than ever before.
Wow.
So
That's
It's a
exciting.
very short article, but as all of you know, I keep up on Uranus, Dave, right?
Oh, like nobody I know.
You love
And
it.
so there's literally new articles being written every few weeks. And so I don't have a lot of information
Mhm.
other than to say, quite possibly, looking at Uranus, Dave,
Mhm.
could be a portal to another dimension. We're going to have to wait and see what they learn when this mission happens here shortly.
Wow. I wonder if Uranus is pummeled by asteroids.
It mentioned nothing about that.
Oh.
I thought that myself. It did
Maybe
not look like it had anything irregular around Uranus.
Might be that they're just the asteroids are just zipping right through the portal of Uranus.
Hmm.
What surprised me was the number of photographs of Uranus, Dave, that they had.
Hmm.
Does it
How
really?
many?
In this day and age, with selfies all the time, Uranus is going to be a selfie machine.
I mean, it's
I just
so
want
cool.
y'all to know something.
What's that?
Yes,
I'm
please.
working on a project right now with
Oh,
James
no.
Webb Telescope people
Uh-huh.
and the
What a
moon.
name dropper.
Believe it or not.
I don't.
Well, you need to.
Now,
But is this episode going to ruin all those chances for you?
No.
Is this what
gonna
got
be
you
a
in the
big
door?
deal.
Did
This
you
is gonna
flip
be a-
your badge? I'm a Paranormal 60 News crew
It's gonna be
member.
a big
I need
deal,
to
man.
be on this.
I'm telling you.
one thing I wanted to add. This was the last part of the article. It did mention that this
Yeah.
mission that they're talking about to Uranus, Dave,
Mhm, mhm.
has not been approved by NASA yet.
Oh,
So
who
we
is
may
it
never
approved
know.
by?
We may paleontologists are still awaiting approval.
Oh, wait, who is doing
Paleontologist.
who's doing this study or whatever it is?
Paleontologist.
That's
Paleontologists with
so.
the pistol and the
Did you?
No.
Where? Just out of curiosity, where did this story come from? Was it
I
Mad
may have been
Magazine?
looking- Yeah. A lot of the words don't make sense now that I look at it more closely, Dave.
Words is hard.
Words is hard, Dave. Nothing's
Very
changed in
hard.
2 years.
No, not at all. Good Lord. Well, what an exciting and memorable night it's been. Let's reflect back, shall we? Scott Wolter stopped by to talk to us about
So
the
great.
probability that Atlantis existed, but not as just one landmass, but as an entire central hub of communication and insight. Then we talked about conspiracy theories, the concepts that things may not be what we once believed them to be, or even more terrifying, maybe they are exactly as we believe them to be. And then we've been hammering Uranus for months now. And here we are, one last chance to really dive deep into Uranus and realize that the portal that is Uranus may have even more information for us stored in it than the vaults of King Tutankhamun's crypt.
My hope is that I'll be back in a few weeks to
Mhm.
talk more about Uranus, Dave.
Why
Oh.
is it the last chance? Why did you say that? I don't want it to be the last chance
Of what?
for us to explore Uranus.
Well, I'm just
we
it
aren't
may-
going to stop exploring Uranus, Dave. Don't you worry.
That's good to know.
Thank you.
I can
Oh
go to
my
bed.
God.
I can go to bed sleeping just a little bit better, knowing that you guys are going to continue to probe until we get the
Oh my-
answers that everybody,
Absolutely.
all of
I
our
think
dark
we all
ages
will
listening
be.
deserve.
Just so you're aware, like I mentioned here a moment ago,
Not end.
this new mission has not been approved.
Uh-huh.
So I don't want to share too much like Scott did earlier, right? But no, I mean, he couldn't share too much. I can't remember.
Yeah. The paleontologist said
I
what?
am working right now in my garage, Dave, during my free time.
Wow.
I am working on a new probe for Uranus, Dave.
That's exciting.
I can't say a lot about it.
Are you working in secret with Greg and his friends at the
No, this
James
is
Webb
separate.
Telescope?
It's separate.
I was asked to partake, but I said, nope, this is a special Uranus probe for Dave.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the kind of quality control I like. Unlike Greg, who's like, oh, I'm working on a secret project that has nothing to do with you or the show, Dave. So like Chachi's like, Dave, I'm going to Amazon clearance warehouses and buying parts, and I'm building a probe for Uranus, and I'm excited about it. I can't speak for everybody else on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited. I want to hear more about this equipment that you've got.
No,
I
to
hope
probe
to in a
Dave's
future show,
Uranus.
Sweet
Yes.
Tea, if
Yeah.
I can get the final parts that I need, I will bring it on the show.
Oh, that's exciting.
But I
Will it
Can you
withstand
tell
your
us?
It's got to
knowledge?
be just the four of us. I can't share it more broadly.
Just tease it a little bit.
That's
Tease Uranus
exactly.
a little bit.
Tease us a little bit. What are these
Well,
equipments?
folks, I want to thank you for tuning in as this continues to spin down the drain. We've had a great time with you tonight, and I hope that you've been drinking along with us, so it's as funny to you as it is to the four of us. Well, three of us and one grumpy old man. We will be back next week with more of the best in paranormal news. Why? Because we have nothing better to do on Wednesday nights. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60 News Crew.
It's Wednesday night and I'm alone. The Paranormal 60's on. It's just for paranormal freaks like me, with poltergeists and ghosts and blues and UAVs. You miss a word, you do a shot. It starts to snowball and we laugh a lot. It's just like drinking with your TV friends. I'll be passed out before tonight's show ends, dreaming the aliens are taking me away. I'll go wake up till sometime late on Saturday. It's Wednesday night and I'm alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Schrader's on. Schrader's on. Schrader's on. Chachi and the Colonel and the Paranormal Detective, always traders copy and they all will be corrected. He's got protective bracelets and some crazy magic tricks. Even Scully cannot save him from the voice of Stevie Nicks. Schrader's on. Schrader's on. It's Wednesday night, don't be alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Now one day Dave might even put me on his show. There's a ghost in my mom's basement, man, I live down there, I know. It's Wednesday night, don't be alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Schrader's on. Words is hard.
Buy Dave's book because it is something you need in your life. Dave's book is known to have the answers to the universe. Dave's book will make you feel better about being you. Dave's book also balances unevel. I can't even make these things up and go along with it. My brain just doesn't want to work like that. Dave's book makes uneven tables more even. Buy Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness, wherever you buy your favorite books. Or better yet, buy it at theparanormal60.com and get an autographed copy today.